Today I'm standing in an area where we recently used prescribed fire. This area had cedars felled 2 years ago. They dried, and then last week we dropped a match to try to consume some of these cedar skeletons. Grant and I are calling this burn a success here at the Proving Grounds 2 as we make another step forward to our habitat improvement project. Oh man, this looks awesome. This looks awesome. So you can see right here, I mean, how much sunlight is reaching the ground here where we felled these cedars. You compare that to just a few yards away. I'm here on the edge, the kind of the top area, top line of this unit. You compare this to up here where the hardwoods are. And you can kind of see there's a lot more shade up here and much more sunlight out here where we felled the cedars, even now. But imagine summer where all those trees have canopied out, leafed out, shading out the ground. We're not going to have a lot of habitat improvement underneath these hardwoods, not yet. Now, we're going to come in and probably do some TSI, some hack and squirt later on. But right now, we've got a lot of sunlight reaching the ground where those native grasses and forbs can receive not only sunlight, but also water. Those cedars, we're only letting about 60% of the water down to the ground. That other 40% is either evaporating from the cedar limbs or being taken up by the cedars. So it was very dry underneath. Now these native grasses and forbs, these native species, can get water and sunlight. We're still going to have a lot of hardwoods in this area. A lot of them are oaks. They're going to be able to photosynthesize more, put on more wood. This is going to be beautiful. It's called a savanna, an oak savanna through here, where we've got oaks, you know, every 20, 30, maybe 40 yards, and then grasses and forbs underneath. Great wildlife habitat. We've got acorns, and we've also got that habitat at ground level from that 0 to 3 feet where those critters are making a living. So cover, native browse, this is great habitat coming on. We're still a ways from it, but a great step forward after this prescribed fire. As I look around, there's still quite a few cedars still laying up on top where that fire didn't maybe consume all the limbs up top, but rather crept underneath or burned some of the needles maybe on the lower half. But other areas got very hot, almost like this spot I'm standing in, and it almost looks like a moonscape. As the native grasses and forbs respond to sunlight and the fire, well, there's going to be areas that, like this, are open, receiving a lot of sunlight, but other areas that are going to be underneath a few cedar skeletons. They're going to maybe not grow as much forage, but that's all right. Those cedar skeletons are almost acting like a utilization cage where critters don't want to stick their nose in, and those species can come up, mature, and drop seed, increasing our native seed bank. This is going to create some habitat diversity along this slope. Not only are we going to still have a little structure of those cedar skeletons, but now we're going to have areas that have a lot of native grasses or forbs coming up in these little pockets, almost like a mosaic of habitat throughout this area. You can see from the aerial view, there's still some quality oaks out in the middle, and that's going to create a savanna habitat over time as we keep reducing a little more fuel and work to get this back into native grasses and forbs underneath large mature oaks. This will be similar to the habitat we showed you at the Proving Grounds that created some great hunting opportunities and was incredible wildlife habitat for fawns, nesting birds, brooding habitat for turkeys. This habitat is going to be good in a couple years.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Moultrie Mobile, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, Hunt Stand, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Ward Laboratories, Burris Optics, National Land Realty, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
This was a dormant season fire before spring green up. And you notice back behind me there's a sapling right here, and it got really hot due to the fuel load right there by that sapling. Now, we probably top killed that sapling. We didn't get rid of it. It still has a lot of energy in the root system, and as spring green up comes on, all that energy is going to be pushing up, and we're probably going to see some hardwood sprouts along the ground coming up from those roots. Now that's okay, because our next fire in this unit will probably be a growing season, a late summer burn. And that can help control or manage some of those hardwood saplings that may occur from this burn. You'll also notice there's a couple large hardwoods that we left standing that have some very large scars. And that's because there was a heavy fuel load next to that tree. We used a backing fire, which is a lower intensity fire. We started at the top and let it back down the slope, and that kept that fire as low intensity as possible. But these cedars provided a high fuel load. So there's going to be some trees in this area that got kind of hot and we probably damaged. However, there's going to be other trees that we saved or protected because we used that low intensity backing fire. That fire was able just to back past that tree and not damage it. When you think about it, this is kind of replicating the Creator's plan. Imagine a big windstorm or beetle kill of some species, disease comes through and it takes out a single species or a lot of trees, and there's trees left standing. Then there's a lot of fuel on the ground and a fire came through, damaged some of those remaining trees, but others were left and they were a bit more tolerant of fire. And that created great habitat and favored trees that were fire resistant. We talk about creating habitat for wildlife, deer, turkeys, songbirds, other critters, and most of that habitat is from that 0 to 3 feet. Now you look down through here, it looks kind of bare right now, but believe me, in a few weeks, we're going to have a lot of food, tender, palatable forage coming on in some of these areas. This is also going to be great bugging habitat as we kind of get closer to turkey season, because we've removed a lot of habitat where insects were hiding. We've exposed those insects, and turkeys are going to love to come in here and bug. On top of that, we've still got quite a bit of structure of different treetops laying over. There's probably going to be some hens nesting in here. There's going to be toms trolling this area, either bugging or looking for hens. This is going to be a fun area to hunt come turkey season. We may be a year or two away from putting a redneck up on top of the slope here and overlooking the area, just because we need to remove a little more fuel to be able to see through these cedar tops and whatnot. But once we get this area all cleaned up through prescribed fire through the years, this is going to be awesome deer hunting habitat. We're going to have a lot of native grasses and forbs through here, and we can now see a long ways. Before, we were just seeing cedar tree, cedar tree, cedar tree, and it was bare along the ground. Now, we've got a lot of habitat coming on here in the next few years, and we're going to be able to sit up on top in a redneck and monitor some great habitat while hunting. The Growing Deer team is really excited about this habitat improvement project. We've got more plans, so make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to the Growing Deer channel. We're going to be doing some TSI, some hack and squirt later on this year. Again, opening up that canopy to allow more sunlight to the ground, but using a different technique than a chainsaw like we did on these eastern red cedars. So make sure you follow along daily on our social media pages as we share the steps of improving the habitat here at the Proving Grounds 2. Whether you're working on your habitat improvement projects, preparing for planting season, or maybe scouting for those longbeards, I hope you take time this week, slow down, enjoy creation, but more importantly, listen to what the Creator is saying to you and the purpose He has for your life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.